He had a modern version of Mr. October, and what Louis Adio Weiss, for all his numbers are worth, okay, Derek Jeter's the only one that has hit for 3,000 hits with the Yankees as well.
That's true.
So therefore, with all this war, with all this stat, with all that stat, okay, 3,000 numero uno with the Yankees dealing with George Steinbrenner. End of story. End of my case. Guys, go ahead. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah, a 78-mile-an-hour slider that wound up in the left field seats in Yankee Stadium. Yeah, there's only 2 players with 3,000 hits not in the Hall of Fame. One is Rafael Palmeiro, and the other one liked to bet on his own team. I think we know what we're talking about here. But yeah, no, again, Jeter's on-the-field numbers are enough to merit Hall of Fame induction. And I think one thing, too, Eli Manning just retired, another New York sports icon. He'll be a Hall of Famer in his respective sport because he won when it mattered most in the playoffs. I understand he didn't have a winning season for 7 of the last 8 years of his career, and he didn't win a playoff game the last 8 years of his career. But Derek Jeter, like Eli Manning, won in big moments. He has obviously the 5 World Series. He's dealt with failure as well. He lost 2 World Series. But yeah, his numbers in the postseason are unparalleled. It reflected the even-keeled nature. If you look at Derek Jeter's average season on a baseball reference page and then look at his postseason resume, 158 games, they're nearly identical, which again reflects that he just, no matter the situation, Derek Jeter was the most prepared and even-keeled guy you wanted to play. I mean, baseball is a sport like football. It's epitomized by sentimentality. Those moments that Larry Walker never really had postseason moments like Derek Jeter because he wasn't on teams that won enough. Right? I mean, the 94 Expos, a team you've gone on record as saying you believe could have won the World Series.
Oh, yeah.
And he probably would have been a big part of that. Would have further helped his Hall of Fame candidacy had the strike not ended the season.
Well, but now you're opening up another can of worms
for another show. But what I'm saying is this. Jeter has those moments. He has that play in 2001. He also has a play in the World Series that year. The clock strikes midnight, Mr. November, the home run off Byung-Hyun Kim, the walk-off home run in Game 4 of the World Series.
Well, don't forget the fact that his 3,000 hit, wasn't that a home run?
Was a home run.
All right, so don't tell me about Byung-Hyun Kim. I was living in Arizona, and I was an adopted Diamondback then. But that's for another day. But I'm with you.
I'm saying those moments are further what propel his Hall of Fame legacy. Hall of Famer without those moments, like Walker should have been. But again, those moments are only what make it even better. He pretty much had the amalgamation of everything.
And guess what? They're going in together.
And they should.
And they are.
And I'm glad.
One went in on the first ballot, one went in under 10, and once upon a time there used to be 15, now they're down to 10. And you don't need to come up with any more numbers. We're ending with my numbers for a change. All right, Damon, go ahead. Well, you got another minute or so to go.
What did you say again? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. You got another minute to close it out. You're my closer right now for this segment.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm really happy for these guys. It's so hard to get the Hall of Fame. 1% of the way that the players play in the MLB only make it to the Hall of Fame. And so it's a really good honor, great honor to be a part of.
And one last thing, okay? Should Walker go in, even though he's already made his declaration, with an Expos cap or a Rockies cap? Make it quick.
I'd say Rockies cap just because of what he did in that time period. He made 4 All-Star games. He was the home run leader in 1997 and the NL MVP in 1997.
Right, and not only that. Right, and not only that, he's the first Rocky to ever get in Hall of Fame. So that's why it seems justifiable that a Colorado Rocky does get into Cooperstown. So very good. Hey, Damon, once again, very good job. Just so let everybody know what your Twitter handle is. And just so you know, you can follow Damon Knight's work here at SouthFloridaTribune.com. Damon does a great job writing for the South Florida Tribune. Real quick with the large Twitter handle that you have that I'm actually starting to memorize now.
All right, cool, awesome. Yeah, so it's at Damon with a capital D, K, capital K, N, and then 1993-0409.
Very good. Okay, Damon, thanks for being on the program. Glad you had your opportunity to talk about the Hall of Fame, and we'll see you the next time. Damon Knight, everybody.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, have a good day, you guys.
You're welcome. I enjoy some of the debates I get with Mr. Baseball here. But that's okay. You do bring out a lot of interesting points. But I've never seen, I shouldn't say never, seen 2 Hall of Fame guys going at the same time that are so far away from each other in terms of, their years of eligibility where you only have just a couple of them. Not lose sight of the fact that Ted Simmons is a member of that class and Marvin Miller. And that's why we've gone ahead and talked about it. Our next guest works for Fansided, and he also covers the Jacksonville Jaguars. David Levin, thanks for being on the Sports Exchange. Glad to have you with us.
Hey, thanks, Scott. How you doing?
We're doing great. Lewis and I are just burning up the airways, so why don't you go ahead and burn them up some more? He's already been torched quite a few times already. We don't even know what the over-under is. Ask the other guest.
I don't know how to respond to that.
You don't have to, but you did with a laugh, so that's good enough. And Lewis, meanwhile, is laughing and grinning like Gomer Pyle did back in the day. So, all right. So, take that for whatever it's worth.
Getting out of the Andy Griffith era, the Jaguars have a new offensive coordinator, I hear, and it's a pretty darn good fit, as you and I discussed a little earlier.
Right.
Jay Gruden agreed to become the Jaguars offensive coordinator, much to, I would say, the delight of some of the fans, and some criticism as well. As you and I talked about earlier, there were 4 candidates, and this is going based on a conversation that Doug Moran had with the media when he was introduced, that there were 4 candidates that he had talked to. 3 of them were Gruden, Scott Linehan, and Ben McAdoo, and a 4th candidate who we are assuming was Ken Wisenhunt, but that has not been confirmed. We know that there was plenty of national media attention, that Linehan was the first one to interview, then it was McAdoo, and then Gruden's name surfaced, to which I think might be one of the best hires they've had in the organization in its 25-year history, to be honest with you.
Scary thought, isn't it? Well, you know what? I got to agree with you on that. Jay Gruden is the best of the 4 candidates out there. So why don't you and I go ahead and confer how we rank them, and then we'll talk about the quarterback dynamic. I had Jay Gruden listed number 1, Scott Linehan, number 2, Ken Wisenhunt 3, and Ben McAdoo, who's notorious for taking out Eli Manning for all the wrong reasons, way too premature, number 4. So where does your list compare to mine?
You and I have, as we talked a little bit before, I can't speak tonight.
That's okay.
Yeah, this was, you and I have the same list. I was not super excited when I heard the fact that Ben McAdoo was going to get an interview. I thought that for all the reasons that he shouldn't, first of all, his association with Coughlin would leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Why would they be bringing somebody in who worked with Coughlin and replaced him? Linehan, I thought, was a good choice. And you and I discussed that too, because of his work with quarterbacks. And maybe Linehan didn't get such a good rap when he was a head coach, but he's a good coordinator. I would have liked to have seen Wisenhunt, because I think Wisenhunt got a bad deal on San Diego when it was San Diego Chargers. That he had a lot to work with, but injuries and the Spanos family, it did him in. But I really like this Gruden hire. I will say this: for people that get mad, why are they hiring him? He was a bad head coach. He had to be a good offensive coordinator or a good position coach to even get an interview to be a head coach. So there has to be a reason why he's elevated. He was elevated because he was really good at what he did in Cincinnati, and that's taking Andy Dalton and making him a Pro Bowl quarterback, and redefining an offense that went from 18th to 12th to 6th in the NFL in the first 3 years he was there.
If anybody's going to sit here and tell me that Jay Gruden's a bad head coach of Washington, then I think they need to wash their mouth out with soap, okay? Because that's not the case. Nobody looks good in Washington, and it remains to be seen how Ron Rivera will do, although I'll give him a chance because he doesn't have Bruce Allen. And I want to point out one thing about Linehan. I took notice of what he did when he worked well with Matthew Stafford of the Lions. So Matthew and Scott were working well together. You saw one going over the place. So I have no problem with Linehan working, and I saw they work with Stafford. But go ahead. I just had those thoughts in mind. Wanted to get them out there.
I'm glad you did. There's talk that there's still some positions that are open with the staff. I know there's a quarterback coach position that we believe is going to get filled. We're hoping that Gruden has a name that he wants to bring in. But I'd be really happy if they called Linehan and said, look, we still have an opening here.
Right.
Maybe we pay you a little bit more. We pay you a little bit more than a position coach. Are you interested in coming in here? and working, because I definitely think Gardner Minshew could definitely benefit from him.
Good transition, because now you talk about Gruden being in there, and you were telling me that Minshew could be a logical starter with Gruden and Foles competing. I wonder, that'll be interesting to see how that scenario plays out.
I think what happens is this, and we had discussed this, you and me and Lewis, before. These are conversations that coaches have. I think excuse me, guys. I think the reason why it didn't work out with DeFilippo is basically Foles is his guy, and no matter how much he tried to make the offense adapt, he still wanted Foles, and maybe that's part of the conversation that they have on that Monday morning. Hey, is Foles going to be the starter? No? Well, then I'm out of here. I mean, he took a quarterback job very quickly in Chicago, and he got paid. He's only getting paid probably half of what he was making in Jacksonville. So it all really depends on the fit. I think that Gruden's it's a West Coast offense, and I don't know if it's the same variations of the West Coast offense from before, but to give people an understanding of what the West Coast offense is, if they don't know, it's short intermediate passes, passing game that moves up and down the field. It's basically it's a cost-effective method to scoring without the high risk. That's perfect for Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, but in DeFilippo's case, you got to remember he's gone ahead and had 3 jobs in 3 years, so that doesn't quite look great either. So, now the Jaguars are on their 4th offensive coordinator in the last 4 years. I remember a lot of times people used to talk about Joey Harrington being a bust with the Lions. And maybe there's a good case to go ahead and say Joey Harrington was. But I'm going to say in defense of Joey, okay, when you keep changing over the offensive coordinator every year, I don't care how good you are, okay, you're going to be a bust anyways.
We said this in the what we were talking about before. Blake Bortles went from a changed college system to Jed Fish to Greg Olson to Nathaniel Hackett, and they all lasted a year or a little bit over a year, and they were out the door.
Okay.
I used to think it was Blake Bortles that was the coordinator killer.
Right.
I'm just beginning to think maybe it's just Jacksonville as the coordinator killer, to be honest with you, because it's carried over for Marone, because it's Nathaniel Hackett, and then he gets rid of Nathaniel Hackett. And then it's Scott Milanovich who took over for him for the last 5 games of the season. And then it's DeFilippo, and DeFilippo doesn't work out for a year. And now it's Jay Gruden. And let me tell you, you and I agreed with this. If they jump out to a 0-4 record or whatever it is, and let's say there's 8 games in, they've only won 2 games, and Moreau's gone, Jay Gruden will be the new head coach.
Yeah, what great segue. You know what? Another thing that we definitely agree on. I think Jay Gruden is one of the finer coaches in football. I don't ever judge anything would happen to him in Washington. He gets a mulligan for that. I can see Jay Gruden taking over the reins over in Jacksonville if Doug Marone is let go before the end of the year. So I think that they put a lot of thought behind that hire. There's more to that than meets the eye. As far as you saying that Jacksonville's a coordinator killer, I don't know if I would quite go there. It's called just making the wrong choices. But at some point, you'd like to think you'd get it right. And this time, I think they did get it right. But let's go back on your thought about Gruden being the successor to Marone. We all know that Doug Marone and David Caldwell, especially Marone, those seats have never been hotter than they are now. Let's not lose sight of that. They are. They're not hot. They're boiling, okay? They're boiling as I'm loud tonight, okay? They're boiling. But I think Jay Gruden definitely deserves another job, head coaching job. But it'll be interesting. You have Minshew starting and Foles competing, but a lot of this is going to be determined in OTAs. Jay's going to have to be able to take the old line that, what good I am with movies. Okay, Gene Hackman. Let's see what hand I've been dealt in Hoosiers.
Right, and I really agree with what you say. The only thing that I can say is this: is that when OTAs start, I'm going to be there. When the media walked out with Foles from day one of OTAs, it was a role reverse. He had command of the huddle. He had command of the field. He was talking to people. He was, picking up it was ungodly hot, and he's telling Chris Conley to fight through. And, people aren't used to it, but there's Foles being